The Golden Gate Bridge is the deadliest structure on Earth for suicide, and we want it to stop.
My name is Paul Muller. I'm currently president of the Bridge Rail Foundation in the San Francisco Bay Area. And our goal from our founding has been to resolve the suicide problem on the Golden Gate Bridge. But after the initial planning phase started, the architect of the Bridge District came up with the net idea based on a successful installation in Switzerland. Well, fundamentally, the medical community has known since the mid-60s that restricting easy access to lethal means is a way to reduce or prevent suicides.
It's actually very well proven that when restricting access to a highly lethal means of suicide saves lives. If they try and go somewhere else or use a different method, the likelihood is that they will have time to reconsider and be able to call for help.
That information has been presented to the Golden Gate Bridge District in the 60s and every decade since, yet nothing had been done, and it was relatively easy to prevent, relatively easy to solve.
I've supported raising the rail initially, and when the options were given to the public of raising the rail versus building a net, the net option was chosen by the public. Other places around the world where similar structures have had a problem with jumps and suicides, nets have successfully prevented suicides from happening.
One of the first bits of research we looked at was a suicide prevention structure, a taller railing that was installed on the Duke Ellington Bridge in Washington, D.C. A taller railing stopped the suicides at Duke Ellington. But there's another bridge, I think it's called the Taft Bridge, within a block or two where people could easily get access to it, but they didn't go there. It's a very important piece of research because it shows that people don't just naturally shift over to the next easily available thing.
Over the years, we've had to contend with critics who felt that it wasn't the responsibility of a public landmark like this to try to limit access to lethal means.
I think the biggest challenge that people throw to me is they're just going to do it someplace else anyway. I could go on for hours about how wrong that really is. There's so much now in the literature about the fact that if you take away the really, really easy access, people just don't do it. You know, you take, okay, 35 a year, let's just use that number. In 3 years, that's over 100 people. If you take this 160 or 70 million dollars and divide it all up over the next 100 years, then you know how much is a life worth? I'm never, ever going to put a price on what your life may be worth, or yours or mine. I'm a little older than you are, but I think my life is worth something, and it's hard to put into a dollar figure. And I don't like it when people say the cost is way too high. Well, really? What is the cost when kids and grandkids don't have that parent or that uncle, whatever? How do you even put a number on that?
I think we're going to be addressing other communities that are looking to resolve problems in the transportation area and public access. Those are particularly complex problems. Locking up a bottle full of sleeping pills is a relatively easy thing for people to do, and they can just take care of it right away, right now, if they want. Resolving these complex transportation issues is more difficult. They often require a more active coalition of people to bring the problem, first of all, to public officials, and then dog them until they get the problem resolved, which is essentially what we did.
Well, our response has been, first of all, to be relentless in testifying before the Bridge District, before the powers that be, but in particular telling our personal stories. And what we found was that by telling our stories over and over again, not just Casey's story, but every other story of another human being that was lost to this bridge has made a world of difference And the powers that be in the Bridge District have said as much, that it was our personal stories that won them over.
And also because our daughter really wanted to bring the change that she wanted to see in the world. And she wasn't able to do that. And so we wanted to do it for her in her honor and as her legacy. We wanted to not have what happened to our daughter and to us happen to anyone else, because we wouldn't wish it on our worst enemy.
It was education, doing studies, more awareness, and that's what eventually swayed the board district to vote to do the wind tunnel studies, to go ahead and try and get input from the public on what barrier they would want. It was educating them, letting them know that it makes a difference. One of the board meetings we went to, we presented, my husband and I presented like 20 studies that showed how well restriction to lethal access to lethal means, works. And they actually asked their staff to go out and get the full articles. We only gave them the abstracts. So that education, having groups like NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, AFSP, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, getting those groups in there, having them talk, educate, really helped make a difference too.